Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Men and Sex. I'm your host, Mr. Wood. This podcast is all about normalizing some of the most taboo conversations. Here we talk about sex, we talk about intimacy, we talk about masturbation, we talk about porn, and we do it in a mature way. Men really find sex important. And I'm not just saying this. If you look at the data, if you look at the amount of attention that's given to it year to year, month to month, day to day, if you look at the amount of money that is spent yearly, monthly, daily, it is astronomical. It blows my mind every time I look it up how much attention is on sex. And yet we live in a world that demonizes it, that makes it taboo, and there's hardly any places to talk about it. I have worked and still work with some of the world's largest men's personal development organizations, and they barely scratch the surface of talking about sexuality. And so that's what we do on this podcast. That's what we do in the community spaces is grow up, be brave, be bold, be courageous, and talk about these things so that we as men, we're not navigating it alone. We're not navigating it hiding in secrecy and having these things develop in ways that are out of control. Now, today, I'm jumping on to make this particular podcast episode around sex in relationship and what leads to sexless relationships, what leads to sexless marriages. And this is prompted because I recently put up a post, a really cheeky post. It was, did you have sex today? And if not, why? I had over 200 and something people comment on it, and there was a lot of information. I want to go through some of the comments, and I want to just open this discussion because there's a lot of victimhood in the world today. And what that means, let me break down what I mean when I say victimhood. There are a lot of us in relationship, all types of people, that we get to a certain point and we give up. And there's a narrative in our story that the thing that we're a victim to, why we gave up. And what that does is it places our attention on the reason instead of the importance to do whatever it takes to keep hoping and keep trying, to keep connected to our desires. This is why I've done whole trainings on how to strengthen your desire. We are being bombarded with these things, phones, screens. We're just being blasted all the time with information, and we're blasted all the time with instant gratification. You want to watch something, you can watch endless things. You want to listen to something, you want to buy something, you want to eat something, it'll be delivered to you. You want to buy anything, it'll be to you tomorrow. You want to buy some food, someone will drive it to you. It's 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 killing our ability to sustain desire long term. Now, this isn't to say that nobody's in a place where they're a victim of something, meaning something has happened to them. But victimhood is buying into it and giving up. I believe that we as men should encourage each other to do whatever it takes to be the men that we want to be. And in relationship, to do whatever it takes to stay connected to our desire and keep saying it and learn how to say it in a way that we enjoy it, even if we feel this person said no to me 40 of the last 40 times I've asked, to still be like, I want this thing. I want it. I want it. I want it, and not collapse. But once again, this isn't a thing that we have very many spaces to talk about. So there's a lot of people collapsing out there. And this post brought a lot of that forward. And in this post, it was a lot of heterosexual dynamics. And I was hearing it from women and men. Oh, my husband isn't attracted to me. My husband hasn't had sex with me in a long time. And obviously a lot of men that are like, I haven't had sex with my wife in 20 years. there's some really powerful things to dissect and look at for each of us when it comes to what we're going to navigate in our lives and what we're going to navigate, particularly in intimacy and relationship. We live in very dogmatic religious societies. We have "In God We Trust" written on our money. And part of what that belief system brings in is that monogamy is the only way. And I think it forces a lot of people into monogamy that don't have relationship skills and have knew nothing about courting when they met their partners. So there's a big rat's nest of a mess here. And I am not against monogamy. I'm in a monogamous relationship. That's what I want in my life right now. I've explored other dynamics, and I think that there's gold and shadow. There's weakness and strength in all relationship styles. And one of the weaknesses of a world that forces people through belief systems and shame into monogamy is they end up getting in places that they don't have the skills to navigate. And this is often where a sexless relationship is developed. Men don't have the skills and support, women don't have the skills and support, and so it just becomes a gridlock. And there is responsibility on both sides. That's one of the things that victimhood robs us of, is taking responsibility for the part that we played in it. And as men, I've worked with a lot of men. I've worked with a lot of men over the last 20 years, and I've been listening to men share their stories for the last 30 years. Most men are very unskilled at emotional intelligence, seduction, confidence, valuing themselves, self-love, and these play a part in how we as men show up in relationship. Doesn't matter, heterosexual, gay, bisexual, doesn't matter. We play a part in the dynamic that we create with our partners. When we lose ourselves in victimhood, we have completely given up our power. My dad used to say this to me. Responsibility and power are two sides of the same coin. If you give up responsibility, you give up your power. And so the encouragement here, once again, it's not to say there aren't bad things, harmful things, hurtful things that are happening out there for men. It's not that things aren't happening to you. It's just about what you do with it. We always have the power to control our perception and choose how we integrate that information. What we make the thing mean about ourselves and about the world. Once again, the main thing I think that exists here is men do not have the support, they do not have the information, they do not have the community that's required to navigate relationship in the world today. And women, if you're heterosexual or bisexual, similar. Women have been going through a fucking washing machine for a long time, and they live in a very masculine world. The world has taught women to replicate men, to value their intellect above everything else, to value their work ethic above everything else. Women have basically been pushed through a mold that is to make them as most like a man as possible. And so there's a lot here to talk about, and I couldn't possibly cover it all in this podcast episode, but there's a lot that we can cover. So let's look at some of these comments on this post, and it's going to open up some conversation. Once again, the post said, "Why didn't you have sex today?" And it talked about researchers asking 87 couples this question every day for 30 days. And it talked about that in the caption. But what most people commented on was why they didn't have sex today. So let's just go through some of these comments. So first one we got, and I'm not going to name anyone. I'm not outing anyone, and I'm not saying anyone's wrong. Everyone, once again, is a product of their past. And most of us don't have the mentorship and training and education that we need. So the first one that comes up to me is just, "Cause she said no for 75 of the last 30 days," which, he's just being cheeky there, which is basically, she just said no every time I asked. Now, first of all, I would be very surprised if he actually asked for 30 days. I would be surprised if he asked once a week for the last 30 days. Uh, this is also why I recently did a whole webinar on rejection. If you want that, you can reach out to me. You can comment rejection, and I'll get you the link for that. And I did a whole 2 hour event on this because one of the biggest things we're navigating as men is how we hold rejection. And a lot of us have not been given the tools to navigate rejection. So rejection really hits us hard, especially when it comes from our intimate partners, especially when it comes from our intimate partners where that's the only place that we're getting intimacy. I was just talking about this in a Q&A, which is as men, it has been created in a lot of societies today, very taboo for us to share intimacy with other men in a non-sexual way. That's a no-no. That's been made, that's gay, that's wrong. I'm not saying it is. That's just how it's held in societies. Not all, but especially here in the West where I live in the USA. And it's not okay to do it with other women. That's cheating. And I understand that. That makes sense. But what is that? Where does that pigeonhole us? All of our intimacy has to come from our partner. All of that pressure is on them, and pressure doesn't open, it contracts, it closes them. And so these are elements that we need to pay attention to in our dance with our partners. Is there, I like to call it the art of seduction, to continually be working on the art of seduction instead of just going, once again, giving away my power because I'm placing all responsibility on the other and going, they said no again. Why don't I, why don't I geek out on the art of seduction? Why don't I learn about how, if I'm with a woman, why don't I learn about her arousal? Because it's different than mine. Why don't I learn about her cycle to know that sometimes she's probably going to be more open than other times? Depending upon her age, maybe I need to learn about menopause. And now we're on a team. Now we're navigating this together. Hey, honey, I know that you probably went through menopause. Like maybe you're feeling something different than me. How can we meet these needs together? The greatest thing we can do, particularly when it comes to a long-term relationship and a healthy sex life, is how do we become a team? So often in the dynamic, it becomes me versus you. I want something and you hold the keys to what I want. And the other one knows that you want something from them and they're like in a defensive mode because maybe they don't want it at the right time or they feel something about it. There's a lot to unravel here. So, the art of seduction. If you feel like you have not been getting the sex you want, great. Let it call you forward to up level. Let it call you to the next best version of yourself. Let it call you towards more self-love, working on the way that you see yourself. All right, let's go on. Uh, she said no so many times I just gave up. So it's just a figment of my imagination. The key word there, give up. Here is a woman. Honestly, now that I'm not so stressed with child rearing and job, it's fine. Let's face it, stress is an emotional killer on a lot of joys in life. So well said by this woman. And this is something to be mindful of for us as men. I think for us as men, and this is a there is a lot of generalizing here. This isn't true across the board, but like percentages wise in my own experience and what I hear in the world, men, for us, sex is a great stress relief. For a lot of women, stress kills any desire for intimacy in that way. You know, I with women, I think of like their opening, and it doesn't open them. It contracts them more. So Debbie hit it here. Like stress and raising children is a lot on a woman. And it's in their own unique way. Like we face our own stresses as men, but women face like breastfeeding. Children just want different attention from their mothers than they want from us as fathers. It's a lot more grabby. It's a lot less body autonomy. It's a lot less hanging on to and just like, mommy, mommy, mommy. So yeah, that's a huge thing for us to be aware of. This is just funny. I run in flip-flops so I can remember what it sounded like. It's sad in a way because he doesn't know what that sounds like anymore. Um, and it also points to a problem that we face as men is a lot of us learn our sex from porn and we're just jackhammering. And there's a time for jackhammering, but predominantly I don't think it's the time for jackhammering. Jackhammering is like an every once in a while thing, but that's what we're used to thinking that we're supposed to be doing, and I don't actually think that works well for a lot of bodies. Because she hasn't wanted to the 38 years we've been married. Yeah, man. That's tough. That is tough. And once again, there's so much to say there. I don't know this person's experience, but how can we as men be that strong that we don't give up and we stay focused on what it is that we want to create, what it is that we want in our life instead of going into like just giving up? How do we not give up? Even if it, what if on like the 39th year it all changed and it was just like the well opened up and it was the best sex life for the rest of our lives, but it only happened because we didn't give it up. Give up. How do we create that fortitude in ourselves of the longevity of our desire? This is a great comment from a woman. It's not all on the woman. Many times I have to consider that my partner can only take ED meds once a week because he has a rare eye condition, making it degenerate faster than normal. So we have to plan other non-med enhanced ways to be intimate. But I'm always up for it. You know, I feel grateful for men when I have women comment on these things and they talk about how they always want it. I'm just like, yeah, that's great. I'm excited for that guy. I feel bad for him that he's dependent upon ED meds, and I think that that's a whole conversation in itself. I think we're brainwashed as men is that we're going to get older and we're going to need ED meds, and like it's coming out in a lot of different ways. The health of your erection points towards a lot of cardiac health and blood flow, your heart. That there's a lot to read from our health based upon our erection health. And, this is a huge psychological, emotional piece. We've treated ourselves like cars and car parts for too long when we're a living organism. All systems are impacting the other systems. And so I guarantee you that guy, if he actually had the support that he needed, he wouldn't need ED meds anymore. And he would break free of the placebo effect he's put on himself. My wife has a throw pillow she puts on her side of the bed and that says, "Not tonight, dear." The other side says, "No, really, not tonight, dear." That's tough, you know? If you meant it in a way that it's like you guys have a way of communicating when she's open to it and when she's not, that'd be beneficial, but it sounds like that pillow is just present all the time and that door is always closed and that's hard to hear. Heard it for 20 years. Okay. This is not meant to be antagonistic, just a real question. I've heard this a lot, as we all have. The lack of intimacy or sex, the roommate situation, etc. Why do men stay passive when this happens or becomes obvious that it's happening? Seems men are just internalize the disappointment and accepting it rather than trying to fix it or even leaving. That's actually a really good post. And, there's nuance in this because it's going to come down to belief. And it's going to come down to like your values. If your value is commitment, then you're never going to leave. If the value of commitment is higher than the value of pleasure, then you're probably going to just stay and accept it. I think the big thing he said was the disappointment and accepting it. And this is what I keep coming back to is how do we let it shape us? First of all, I think as men, we have a lot of room to improve our relationship to self-pleasure. That we have a lot of room to create more rich pleasure with ourselves that isn't, the junk food of sex is popping on an adult video and wanking one out in under 8 minutes. It's garbage, A classic term for it is a crotch sneeze. Why don't we create more eroticism in our own lives? Why don't we, work on the art of seduction more? And like let this challenge bring the best out of us. Once again, I think this is because we don't have enough support, we don't have enough places for these conversations, and that's what a part of that part that I'd like to play in changing. Because I'm too old. I told that person, I said, Listen to Kim Anami." Uh, and I think, this story of I'm too old is not one we should buy into. Marriage means monogamy, not celibacy. I love that term. I don't really know what he's like pointing at there for himself, but I love that term. This is great. This is from a woman, and I think we as men need to hear this. Only reason I give my hubby, if you spent the entire day without speaking, texting, or touching me in any way, I'm not interested. You want affection from me? I need affection during the day. Gold. Gold, gold, gold. I'm gonna freaking take a picture of this and make more out of this because of how gold it is. Man, we need to really hear this because this is the truth of the matter that we can't expect. This is the art of seduction. This is what's lacking for this person. The art of seduction. And her man is probably in his head saying the same things as these other men. My wife never has sex with me. She never wants it. She never wants it. She never wants it. Right here. This is the things that if we give up, we lose our curiosity. If we keep our curiosity, we will learn things that will unlock for the things that we desire. Especially man to woman, women have a different level of turn on that's required. We feel connection through sex and intimacy. They need connection to want sex and intimacy. So this is the art of seduction that I'm focused on is like, how do I flirt better? How do I connect better? How do I be erotic throughout the day, but don't make that go to sex all the time? How do I touch and in sensual, intimate ways that isn't only when I'm wanting sex? There's a ton for us to look at here and up level in our relationships, and it's never ending. It's never ending that our partners are continuously changing and we're continuously changing. Um, so it's an ever building, adapting skill. I love this woman. She has like a very like conservative photo and it says, "We're aiming for at least twice daily and possibly more." And I was just like, yeah, good on you two. And I don't think it's important that we all think I need to have that kind of relationship. For all of us, it's going to be different. And the truth is, the mind can make a mess in here. The mind can say, I really want this. But the truth of the matter is, like, it takes a really specific person and a really specific dynamic to continuously have sex twice a day and for it to be a healthy thing that nurtures the relationship. You know, it can be a distraction. It can be a soothing. It can be a trauma bond. Like there's a lot of different ways that it can play out. So it's not that just having a lot of sex is the gold standard. It's just that it's possible for us to have healthy relationships and a lot and good amounts of sex can support that. Too many people at the house today. That's just a good excuse or a good reason. A woman said, "My husband is the one to say no, I'm over it," which is very uncommon. Uh, and then another woman said, "Same here, roommates only. It all sucks." And the guy said, "He must be the one in 5,000. I've been playing Wolf for 47 years." Three women commented on here. Three women commented on here that in their relationship, the husband is the one that says no. And I have other women on here that have commented that. And that really surprised me. It surprised me how much I saw it on this post. And I think it's great for us to realize that that's also happening. And part of me wonders, like, can we swap the people? I know that we can't, but it's like, can we pair the people that want sex together? That would be good. This is a great one from a woman as well. My number one reason was he was getting excited by porn, having affairs, and absolutely uninterested in the woman next to him. So I stopped wanting him altogether. I didn't want to be his last choice. I mean, you can't argue with that. And um, yeah, I think the main thing here is like that's back to value systems. Like, what do we do? Obviously, if someone's having an affair, I think I don't really care how high your commitment bar is. And this is a value conversation. For some people their value of commitment is higher than that. Um, but for me, an affair, oh, that's a hard one to come back from. I've been cheated on, and that is rough. I don't know. And what kind of standard am I setting for myself if I allow that? So that's a deep conversation. Me personally, I'm in a place that affair is a no-go. I'm out because she decided to become celibate. That's tough. And I would imagine that there's some stuff around the art of seduction here. Someone said it's none of your business. I love that. I'm the one that's begging for it. He has ED and has no sex drive left at all. You know, Once again, this I would encourage the team perspective of how do we work on this together? How do we navigate this together? How do we become a team that is focused on like creating a healthier sex life? And this is something I think it's important to create agreements around in relationship. What is our agreement as we move through the different stages? And this is why it's so important to have discussions around this or in the early stages of relationship. That is, we know we're going to have a honeymoon phase. If we continue on into a long-term relationship, we know there's going to be a phase where we actually have to face our traumas and triggers with one another. And that's usually when the sex goes downhill. And that's when the guy's parts come up of feeling not good enough, rejected, all this stuff. We know these cycles and phases are going to be in here. Do we have an agreement that it's important for us to use intimacy and sexual connection as a barometer for the health of the relationship? And there's going to be different nuances and dynamics. There's different abilities and health things that are going on for couples, but you know, is there an agreement that where we are and how our health is that as we move through the relationship, we want to use intimacy and sexuality as a barometer for the health of the relationship? Now, there's a gazillion more comments on this post. Um, and they're all across the board, different things of what people are feeling and experiencing. And some people are celebrating having a bunch of sex, and some people are struggling. I think the main thing that I want to communicate on this podcast, on this transmission, this share, is this idea around responsibility and power. That if we don't like what's going on in the relationship, we have to be mindful of when we give up and when we let that responsibility go and when we give that power away. Can we be the type of man that is uh relentless, relentless in a different way, relentless, strong-willed in our desire. Not that we're forceful, but it's like having that curious, like, solving a problem, solving an equation. All right, I want more sex with my partner. These kind of blocks are coming up. All right, what could I work on? How could I grow? How could I learn? How could I shape myself? How could I inspire them for whatever I believe they need for themselves? And regardless of what it gets us in the arena of what we want, which is more intimacy with our partner, ultimately we're flexing the muscle of being a man that claims responsibility, remains curious, remains connected to his desire, and focuses on what he can do in the situation. These are very important things for navigating every area of life. Life is going to present us challenges. Life is designed to present us things that aren't that aren't exactly how we want them. That's part of shaping us into the wild, wonderful, amazing human beings that we are. How we navigate challenges is one of the most important skills to develop as a man, as a human being. But, we're talking to men here. So, wherever you are in your relationship, once again, I did a 2-hour webinar on this called The Art of Getting What You Want. Drop in my DMs, comment desire or the art of getting what you want, and I'll send you the link for that. This is an art. Getting what you want is an art. And I've figured out there's 5 key steps in it. And some of the potent ones are looking at our own path, how we deal with rejection, how we manage desire, how we communicate desires. These are all skills we can build. The clarity of what you want, the ability to communicate it, you actually enjoying just wanting the thing. I think that's what a lot of us as men lose is just the joy. Oh, it's so good to want something that you don't have. Yeah, there's a fine line. If that's all there is in life, it can become challenging, but it feels so good to want something that I don't have. And obviously, it feels really good to get the thing too. But we can expand in how much we enjoy wanting something. The ability to communicate it is a skill, masterful skill. And the groundedness to be accepting of whatever life responds back with and not have that diminish my desire. This is something I practice in real life is if my partner is not matching me where I am, how do I still hold the desire in myself and oh, I really want that, whatever that is that I want? How do I hold that and maintain that while my partner is wherever they are? That's a mastery. That's a skill, and it's a potent one for relationships. So, a lot to talk about here. Did you have sex today? And if not, why not? It's a beautiful conversation to have. It's a beautiful thing to think about. I'm thinking about it. Any questions, any ideas that came up, put them in the comments. If you want any of the trainings around rejection, trainings around the art of getting what you want, drop those in the comment, message me directly. Much more to come. Men, remember that your relationship to sexuality is one of the most potent paths to developing yourself. And you're not developing yourself because there's something wrong or bad with you. You're developing yourself because as humans, we're designed to infinitely grow. We learn, we integrate, we expand, we go into the next versions, the next versions, the next version. So utilize your relationship to pleasure, to sexuality, to intimacy, to relationship as a mirror, as a thing to look at you, to keep growing from the inside, and the outside will reflect it. And this is the path to living the highest quality of life that we can. See y'all in the next one.